Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a very special guest today. Her name is Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary, and she's a neurologist, a neuroscientist, and an international recognized expert in not only what we talked about, but Ayurvedic medicine. She earned her medical degree at Loma University School of Medicine, and then she completed her internship at the University of California, Los Angeles, and her neurology residency at the University of California, San Diego. Now, she's the author of The Prime and Sound Medicine, and is a pioneer in the field of integrative medicine, and is a highly sought after speaker, researcher, and advisor for Healthy Directions. She is the former director of Wellspring Health in Scripps Medical School, where she combined her two passions, Ayurvedic medicine and the passions with neurology. So she's been able to help such diverse diseases such as MS, Parkinson's disease, and migraine headaches. Welcome, Kulreet.
Thank you so much. I've got to say, I'm falling in love with the cadence of your voice. It's hypnotic.
Well, I've always said I'm very good. I have a face for radio.
You do. I love it. I love it.
So it makes things so much better when you can work with the thing. And I just love it that also because I have a background in medicine, I'm able to understand most things that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
And this is the difficulty we have in this day and age. It's the communication age.
Yes.
But it's difficulty communicating those diverse concepts for people. And that's where we have to nail it down and make it simple for people to understand all this.
I totally agree. There was an entire vocabulary missing for me to explain what I understood in Ayurveda that is finally coming to life because of the research we're doing in the gut microbiome. So I totally get it.
Yeah. So how did you find that passion of Ayurvedic medicine?
Well, I think like so many of us physicians who kind of took the leap, right, out of our comfortable little boxes, I got sick. Something's got to push you out of your comfort zone. And for me, I was a practicing neurologist at Scripps Memorial Hospital, had a great life. Or so I thought. I had all the boxes ticked off, and I got intractable migraine headaches. And I really did not think this was going to be a big deal. I'm a neurologist. I treat this for a living. And after a year of trying, I could not get them under control. And they were so bad. I mean, they were just so devastating. They were really starting to interfere with my work. And that is what led me down the path of Ayurveda. And it opened my eyes to the entire connection between the gut and the brain. Because when I got my own consultation, I was diagnosed with a gut issue, not a neurological issue, but with a gut issue. And in 3 months, everything had resolved. I didn't even have a vocabulary to explain why I got better.
Yeah, and this is often the case in most things we talk about, is we have to have some sort of crisis to push us out of our comfort zone. Yes. And then allow us to see the world in different ways than we would have otherwise.
Absolutely. Because medicine's a very comfortable place. It's really easy to get good at this and get your accolades. It's a field that rewards hard work, and that's fantastic. But when the model isn't complete, not that it's wrong or right, but when it's not complete, it takes a lot of courage to voluntarily say, hold on, I just spent, decades worth of education that maybe didn't have all the answers. And so I think that's why it's the path for so many of us. Something has to happen personally that throws us into crisis to allow us to expand as physicians.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I studied dermatology at the University of Minnesota, and our chairman was a wonderful man by the name of Peter Lynch. And on the first day of my residency, he drew on a blackboard. Now, for you people out there that have never seen it,
yeah, what's a blackboard?
that's a whiteboard, but you draw with chalk rather than a felt mark. So you actually do something that way. And what he did was first drew a box on the board, and he said, this is the amount of information you're going to learn in your residency. Then he drew a bigger box outside of it and said, this is the amount of knowledge that's in the journals you're going to read. And then he drew a bigger box about it, and he said, this is the amount of knowledge that's in the world out there. And he said, I want you to imagine a box that's as big as the universe. And this is really the amount of knowledge that you need to survive.
Wow.
And it's going to be your challenge to integrate those boxes together in your lifetime to make it understandable for everybody else. And so I've always had an open mind for these different ideas.
Wow.
Now, I do know that some of those new ideas conflict with my old ideas, but that's okay, because that means there's going to be a transition between them.
Yes. That's a very evolved introduction to medicine. I think that's amazing that you had somebody actually present that to you.
Yeah, well, and I think it takes an open mind to really understand that, because of course, your Ayurvedic ideas are totally at conflict with what's taught in traditional medicine.
Originally, I thought that, and it really put me into a tailspin, because I don't know how many neurologists you know, but we like things clean. We really like things to fit into nice boxes. Oftentimes the way neurology is taught is in nice little boxes. Here's this system. And so I think the orderly mind is actually very drawn to the field of neurology. But what I found was, in my study of neurology, there were so many questions that were unanswered, the whys. And I was really discouraged from asking the why questions because we didn't have answers. And so although initially Ayurvedic medicine, it felt like, oh, how am I going to bring these two worlds together? What I found was that my study of neurology gave me a structure. It gave me a really helpful structure. It gave me a language. Ayurvedic medicine, especially in its understanding between the connection between the gut and the brain, helped me to answer the why questions. And have I answered all of them? No, because new ones keep arising. But as new ones keep arising, I'm finding more answers, and that leads to more why questions. And so it's become this exploration. And so what once felt like it was at odds, neurology and Ayurveda, now feels like such a natural, and now, of course, after 20 years of doing this, seemingly obvious complement to each other, that it's just opened up the field for me to explore even deeper and deeper depths of the human brain, human mind, and human consciousness.
Barbie really wants this dream house. It's got stunning views and a slide.
Barbie's ready for fun.
So cool. And Barbie found out about this dream house with an alert from Rocket Homes.
She did?
Well, it's a super competitive market. Everyone wants to buy the dream house.
Better offer Betty.
I'll go 10 over asking.
Cash offer Carl.
Straight cash.
House flipper skipper.
Let's tear it to the studs.
You vultures! You're gonna start a bidding war!
This is less than ideal.
Oh no!
Don't worry, Barbie has a verified approval that shows her finances are backed by Rocket Mortgage. So Barbie wins!
But we need a house.
Oh, I found a fixer-upper castle on Rocket Homes.
It has good bones, but really bad neighbors.
I like his vibe. Get your dream house all in one place with Rocket Homes and Rocket Mortgage. For a better way to find and finance, Rocket can.
Thanks for helping.
No problem, it's good for my glutes.
We are the boy band.
Your tween made you see.
We are the boy
It's
band.
painful concert number 3.
We are the boy band.
We're 5 and 19.
We are the boy band.
Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You know, medicine is a rather interesting field. I'll use those kind words to describe it, because the first time a new idea comes out, it's soundly chastised by the medical profession.
Oh, yes, big time.
It's totally thrown out.
Absolutely.
Then, the ideas stay around for a while, some other people start to think, oh, maybe this could be true. And then finally, at the end of the day, it becomes a self-evident. You know, it was always that way. You look.
Yes. Well, that was obvious. Yeah.
Well, it was obvious. Why did you look at Louis Pasteur inventing pasteurization?
Right.
And here he was totally chastised for saying, how could it be that bacteria is causing all these problems? And
right.
He was totally chastised from it and totally destroyed for that idea, but he persisted and was able to win out at the end of the day.
My narrative isn't different. When I first started doing Ayurvedic medicine, which is really, it's lifestyle medicine. It was the original lifestyle medicine, highly personalized, recommendations for how you should eat, how you should live to live in balance. And when I first started teaching my patients, because of course, to be healthy, you have to be taught. You can't be prescribed away. You have to be taught away. And I was teaching them the connection between the gut and the brain. I had an intervention from my fellow physicians. And the intervention was like, one, this is absolute, heresy. But number two, you're going to bankrupt your practice because everybody, even though we don't believe it, everybody's getting better. And it was just such a shock to me that this was the reason why I was having a formal intervention, a professional intervention. But then, just as you said, 10 years into doing this, the same physicians that had organized the intervention came in and said, oh, there was a study that just came out that's starting to explain, the connection between some of the foods we're eating and the impact that it has on mood, or the impact that it has on the blood-brain barrier. And so it went from, exactly as you said, something that was chastised to something that began to get supported. And of course, now with all the research with the microbiome, it is something that is actually starting very early, but starting to become applauded.
Exactly. As I said, when I was a resident many years ago, the very idea that the flora of the gut was responsible for many things would have been crazy. And now they're talking about poop transplants.
Yes.
Something that, again, is something that is still looked at with many people saying, this is crazy. So it's interesting how these things come on. But at the same time, in addition to gut health, there's this whole movement of positivity coming in, and
Yes.
positivity and happiness being so essential in people's lives.
Yes.
And how, the old dogma of you work hard, you make money, you get a good job, and then you'll be happy was the old mantra. Now they're flipping it around to say, you are happy, then you enjoy your job, then you have a good life.
Yeah.
So the whole mantra is changing around. And that is taking a lot of people by storm and changing people's heads a lot because they're not ready for it.
Well, because we started this momentum, right, to go down this path of achievement driven. And I unfortunately, I see a lot of physicians as my patients, and it's really tough for them to suddenly have a health crisis and realize that happiness and joy drives biochemistry, when you're in a profession that really, denies it, meaning it's so achievement driven, as are so many other careers, professions, so achievement driven that didn't even matter. And suddenly you're in this health crisis, and you realize that all of the things that you were told to do, which you did diligently, and I was certainly one of those physicians, I did it diligently. I worked really hard. I abused my body by overworking. I didn't take care of it. And suddenly it falls apart. And then now you're supposed to suddenly shift gears from that way of being to being happy. And that's unfortunate that we've put so many human beings into those lanes. And I think it's wonderful that we're starting to teach a life of balance, that you can have a life where you are fulfilled, where you're fulfilled, in terms of your material needs. You're fulfilled in terms of what you're contributing to the world. But if you're not taking care of your internal state of health, your mental health, your body, that honestly, no matter how much you have and no matter how much you achieve, it's never really fulfilling.
And I'm going to say this, and please don't think I'm sounding sexist or anything like that, but I find women in medicine have a very difficult time, even more so than the men in medicine. Now, I'm going to preface that because it's quite easy for men just to work. Okay, that's what they do. They work all. But women often have these dual roles. They're mothers, they're members of families. They have all these other things. And I say this lovingly because my wife's a doctor as well. And we have 4 wonderful children. And I know that in my own family, my wife was responsible for running her family practice, which she did very well. And then also taking care of our 4 wonderful daughters and taking care of me at the same time. Yeah. So all these things are being pulled, and women often have a problem with saying no to some of the things, because I know many women sit on the committees. Many of the women sit on these things. And so they're being constantly thrown into these things. And it's difficult for them in the medical profession to juggle all those balls.
Well, and I think it's difficult for women to juggle all those balls in any profession. And it's not just because of what I see as some of the natural roles of women in society. And Ayurveda actually talks about this. They talk about, I'm going to use a term that's known in Ayurveda as Shakti. Shakti is known as the power of nature, and that the power of nature resides in a more concentrated form in women. So women are considered to be literally like the locomotives of society. But in ancient times, societies were organized in a way to also protect them, to protect their physiology, to protect their minds, and to really uphold their needs. And the challenge is not that women continue to have a powerful role in their families and, in whatever career that they're in. That's not the issue. It's just that we haven't created a culture that nourishes them and upholds their sacred role, that they play, that they would naturally play. And when we get to that point of balance, and in Ayurveda, we call it the balancing of the masculine and feminine energies in nature, which is, of course, what creates harmony in any society, that when we balance those energies, all of society flourishes. And so what we're seeing right now is such an imbalance in that masculine energy that women are essentially being both women and men. And until that energy balances, you'll never really have harmony in any aspect of society, whether it be medicine or law or education, doesn't matter. Until those energies are balanced within each one of us, it'll always feel kind of like lopsided and wonky.
Do you want lovely, beautiful skin that makes others look at you with envy?
Yes.
Well, I have a secret to tell you. I'm Dr. Alan Laika, and in my former career, I was a leading cosmetic dermatologist. and I stumbled across an amazing set of creams. They are called Cloud Creams, made by Canadian dermatologist Gordon Telford. These creams make your skin care as easy 1, 2, 3 because they are based on vitamins A, B, and D. Use them daily and your skin will take on a new youthful appearance. My patient's skin was lighter, brighter, and tighter. Gordon and I are so convinced you will love them. Gordon is prepared to offer you a double your money back, no questions asked guarantee. Get yours today. Go to cloudvitamincream.com and get started. Tell them Dr. Leica sent you.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Kulreet, this show is called the How to Live a Fantastic Life show. On a personal basis, how have you learned to have a fantastic life?
Well, first of all, I would qualify by saying that I'm still learning. My definition of fantastic keeps changing. And that's, I think, one of the whole goals of life is you never get it done, right? Like you're continually exploring what fantastic means to you. And so there were different stages of it. The first stage of it really for me in my, late 20s, early 30s, was with my health. I was in a health crisis. My body wasn't working well. My gut and my brain weren't talking, weren't treating each other well. And so at that stage, a fantastic life simply meant a healthier body. I mean, I was not at my optimal physically. And that was my introduction back into Ayurvedic medicine. And so then as I started cultivating that connection between gut and brain and, had my migraines cured within 3 weeks of essentially taking my gut health more seriously and following the Ayurvedic recommendations, that made my life, more fantastic. But then came kind of the next phase of it was I wanted to connect more deeply as a person, as a woman, as a physician, to my spiritual self. I wanted it to be integrated. I no longer wanted to have one side of my life be meditative and another side of my life to be really intellectual, that was preventing the experience of that fantastic life. And I spent, several decades bringing harmony to those. And fortunately, because Ayurveda recognizes the wholeness of our human existence, it was really easy to go into Ayurveda and to better understand how to make that integration. It was not easy always to bring it back into my practice of medicine. And eventually you develop such a deep knowing that it becomes just your authentic self. But I would say that, now this phase of my life has been, okay, so I've kind of figured out the physical part. I feel really good about that. I have made amends between my intellectual side and my spiritual side, like they're finally talking. And then there was this entire unseen emotional side. What people in the West often to refer to as like the inner child, the parts of you that you kind of neglected after you realized like you were an adult, and understanding that the way of processing certain histories of either traumatic experiences or even being able to get to a deeper stage of vulnerability in my spiritual practice or a deeper integration, even as an intellectual being, that I had to really embrace this extraordinarily messy, young, unpredictable, emotional side of myself. And so that has really been kind of a big part of my focus on living a fantastic life. And so I don't know what the next stage will be, but I'm really excited about it because living a fantastic life to me is it's an exploration of the self. I'm always amazed because I always think like, oh, I knocked this part out of the ballpark, only to realize there's this whole other side to myself. And so this is what I'm doing right now. And I'm genuinely excited to see what comes up next. And I know there's always a next, because that's the energy that wakes us up in the morning and says, wow, I'm still alive. There's still something for me to learn about myself and for me to learn about other people. And I've got to tell you, the best part of this particular phase of it has been when you can really embrace the messiest parts of yourself without judgment, with really true, genuine, deep, emotional self-love and self-compassion. There's not much that other people can do to piss you off. You have the same level of compassion for other people that you have for yourself. You cannot have more compassion for other people than you have for yourself. And so this particular aspect of living a fantastic life has been extraordinarily liberating from that standpoint.
Now, that's so beautiful, Kulreet. That is a beautiful statement. And I think those listening out there should take this to heart. Remember, life is a journey. It's a journey without a destination. You get there by the little things along the way. And you can go through those things and rush through those things and be dissatisfied with those things. Or you can take the time and enjoy each aspect of it, whether it's painful, whether it's not, whether it's good, whether it's bad, and use each part of that as a growth experience to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the true basis of life. And a fantastic life is one that embodies all those principles.
I love that. I love that you're sharing that message with people, because I think especially for us, we're so goal oriented, and not that there's not goals along the way. Sure, there are. I really wanted to be headache free. That was a really important goal of mine. But there's these goals along the way that lead to kind of this endless field of, just emerging possibilities.
So, Kulreet, how can people get in touch with you?
They can go to Dr. K. Chaudhary. It's Chaudhary. But what's amazing is at least the last time I checked, I'm the only Kulreet Chaudhary on the internet.
Okay, wonderful. And ladies and gentlemen, go to my website, drallenlycka.com. DRALLEN Lycka, LYCKA.com. Bye for now and have a fantastic day.
You've been listening to How to Live a Fantastic Life with your host, Dr. Alan Stephen Lycka. If you love the show, be sure to share with your family and friends. We are heard daily on this network. Dr. Lycka wants you to live your best life. Visit coachingwithdrlycka.com and book your free 15-minute discovery call today. Remember to pick up your copy of The Secrets of Living a Fantastic Life today at Amazon.com. Until next time, have a fantastic life.